I'm Riley Chow here with Rob Licuria, Tony Ruiz, and Charlie Bright. Rob, what is going on in the drama field at the Emmys this year?
I think it's safe to say that the drama field is much more certain than comedy. And I would probably say right now, with complete certainty, that The Crown will win for the first time, which is awesome. And that is because season four, to me, is not only wonderful, but it's also been so acclaimed and has really won everything across the board so far. So not only will it win, I think it will get lots of nominations below the line creatively and also for its actors. And I think most of those actors will then be looking at probably taking home an Emmy as well. So the only caveat for that is that there is lots of other really excellent stuff in drama series that is going to be competing with The Crown. And so who knows what the hell will happen, obviously, but I would expect to see shows like The Mandalorian and maybe even Bridgerton, because it's been so popular and it actually did quite well at the SAG Awards, which is really saying something because the SAG Awards are quite conservative. And then you have other shows like Lovecraft Country and Pose season 3, its final season, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. And, other things like The Handmaid's Tale was previously quite popular at the Emmys, and season 4 is coming out soon, and really looking forward to that. I'll leave a lot of the other stuff to the other guys, but I will just mention that I actually am really hoping that This Is Us might come back into the category, because with all the competition over the last few years, it's kind of petered out at the Emmys a little, apart from its actors. And I'm a real This Is Us fan. I've always loved it. I just find that show to be so moving and just so easy to immerse myself in. And I think a lot of Emmy voters might feel the same way, because we have seen the actors consistently do well at the Emmys. So that's where I'm at right now. I think it's way more exciting than any other field, possibly because I just think The Crown is so wonderful.
Yeah, in drama, we are missing a lot of the normal contenders like Better Call Saul and Succession, Killing Eve, Ozark, Stranger Things, Westworld, all of those. But we do have a number of returning nominees, as you mentioned, like Pose, or This Is Us, previously been nominated, and Crown, The Mandalorian. So it doesn't feel quite as thin. Plus, people are, really passionate about The Crown. And people are really passionate about Bridgerton. You mentioned the SAG nominations. What really surprised me was actually the Directors Guild nomination. I thought, the directors are so snooty. They'll never go for this, even if the producers do, even if the actors do. But I guess it's all in there. And I guess the Globes were either just, they like their prestige programming, or maybe they're just racist, and that's why they ignored it. Charlie, what are your thoughts?
I will echo about The Crown. I just want to make sure I'm saying this, giving a balanced opinion here, since Rob, of course, is his opinion is tainted by his allegiance to the British royals as a resident of the Commonwealth of Australia. That's for you, buddy.
I love it.
But I think The Mandalorian I also have in there. What I think is going to be interesting with The Crown is, I think what'll be fun to do with our predictions, at least, is trying to figure out there's going to be a lot. I feel like that show is going to have a lot of coattail momentum, and it'll be interesting to see if there's some out of the blue person in either one of the supporting acting categories or possibly guest, that Netflix just decides to put them in there, and because of the simple fact that they're in The Crown, they get in. I think we should have a lot of fun in trying to predict who that will be. Again, Mandalorian, Bridgerton. I think Ratched is a possibility in the fact that it's just something that aired, and it has someone like Ryan Murphy behind it, and it has Sarah Paulson in it. I don't think it and did fairly well at the Golden Globes, so I wouldn't count it out entirely. And I do think This Is Us is one that could make a very big comeback in here. But again, like we were saying in our comedy chat, it's going to be all about passion. And will there be passion, and could passion for something like Pose, which even after its pretty good first season showing and its win for Billy Porter, it wasn't able to recapture that for the second season, which a lot of people said was even better than the first. So I'm very concerned about that one and how that's going to go over. And I would also, could something like The Boys, which has a lot of passion behind it, could that get in here as well?
God, I
think
hope
so.
so.
Look, I think we all realize that The Crown is the front runner, and there's just no debating that. I think Charlie hit on something really interesting in terms of that whole coattail effect of who's going to be the actor who goes along for the ride. Could it be somebody, say, like Emerald Fennell, who plays Camilla Parker Bowles, which would be kind of really interesting right there. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of Pose, and the second season was, as good as the first season was, the second season was even better. I think one of the things that helps Pose this time, that it didn't have the last time in season 2, was that, the first 2 seasons of Pose aired about a year before their respective Emmy ceremonies. In this case, the final season of Pose is airing pretty much right at the end of the season, so it'll be fresher in voters' minds, which maybe could, get people, say, like, Dominique Jackson and India Moore and MJ Rodriguez, who has been long overdue for the recognition that she deserves. So I think that could help. It'll be interesting to see how Bridgerton does, outside of the craft categories, because that is such a craft heavy show. Will it get acting nominations? I also think, if you look at the Prediction Center, 2, kind of big name properties, Perry Mason and the return of In Treatment. In Treatment was a big Emmy hit in its original incarnation. So that could definitely make a comeback. It's a much more, I think, open field, but I think we all agree that The Crown is kind of the juggernaut that's at the head of it.
Yeah, I've got 4 of the supporting actresses from The Crown in my top 5, actually. I've got Gillian Anderson, Helena Bonham Carter, Emerald Fennell, and Erin Doherty. And then I also have, Samira Wiley, since she is apparently the Academy's favorite actress from The Handmaid's Tale. Last year they snubbed Elizabeth Moss. And yeah, this goes to what Charlie's saying about, is there still passion for the show, or will they just move on to things like, The Boys? How many supporting actresses are you guys predicting from The Crown?
I think right now I only have 3.
Only 3. Yeah.
Only 3.
I only have 2 at the moment, but it's very early for me yet, and I haven't quite settled on who I think. But at the moment, I don't know if Emerald Fennell and Erin Doherty can make it. That's her name, right? I keep getting names wrong. Sorry, it's morning here, and I'm still half asleep. Yeah, maybe you're right, Charlie.
Of course I'm right.
Like, we could just sweep everything. You know what would really make me happy is if Tobias Menzies will actually make it in, because he keeps getting kind of missed out. Everyone else gets in except for him, and I hope that he makes it in, because I don't think he gets enough credit for his portrayal of Prince Philip.
Yeah, I think I have him second, even though it felt like he was in about a combined 10 minutes of this season. But yeah, he should have been nominated in lead last year. So.
Yeah. Can I just briefly talk about some of the shows that are on the bubble?
Rob, please do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Firstly, Charlie mentioned The Boys. I've been stung before with The Boys because I've always thought it's so much better than what the Emmys think it is. It didn't even get anything at the Golden Globes. That's probably because they're racist. Kidding. So I'm looking forward to hopefully The Boys making it in, particularly Aya Cash, who is just so fantastic in that, and so is Anthony Starr. Then you've got In Treatment. Really excited about that. I can't wait to see it with Uzo Aduba. Anything with Uzo Aduba leading it, you have to give it a lot of. It's a serious contender. Awards groups love Uzo Aduba, and rightly so. She is incredible. There's a show that aired on HBO last year called Industry, that I really rate very highly. I think it's fantastic, and if HBO gets behind it, which I know it will, then that could actually be a player. And then there are 2 sci-fi shows, well 3, but 2, more importantly, that I think hopefully will get something, and that is Raised by Wolves, which I was really impressed with, Star Trek Discovery, which is brilliant, and maybe to a lesser extent, because I know the Emmys don't usually go for stuff like Snowpiercer, but Alison Wright in that is phenomenal, as is Jennifer Connelly. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the bubble, particularly genre, that could actually make it in here, which is really quite exciting.
Yeah, we also have The Nevers on HBO from Joss Whedon coming out. It's another genre show. And then we've also got The Mosquito Coast, which will be Apple's entry into this with Justin Theroux and Melissa George.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That looks great.
Yeah.
And you could also have something that's a bit more auteur driven, like We Are Who We Are from Luca Guadagnino. So that's something to keep in mind there as well.
Yeah, that looks really good, doesn't it? And there's also Servant, which missed out for season 1, but Lauren Ambrose, pardon me, is really good in that Apple TV Plus show. So hopefully we'll get a lot of... Oh, sorry, and by the way, I always forget to mention that Yellowstone is the most popular show on cable. It is just... Its ratings are phenomenal. It's like Walking Dead level ratings. People love that show. Kevin Costner is fantastic in it. The whole cast is really good. That's one of my faves. And I hope and pray, even though I don't believe in God, that it will get something.
Yeah, it might.
Silence. Anything else? I'll just keep rambling if you like.
Please do, yeah. I feel like there's more to talk about. Maybe not.
So much. There is so much. Like, for example, in Actor, I've always wondered whether Regé-Jean Page will make it in, because he seems to be the breakout star of that show, and like Justin Theroux never got that love for The Leftovers, which still burns me to this day. So hopefully he'll get in for The Mosquito Coast. But will Pedro Pascal actually make it in, even though there's a bias against his performance, because a lot of it is obviously you can't really see it because he's wearing a helmet. So yeah, there was that. And I was also thinking as well, imagine if Pose makes it in, and then, in the annals of history, when you're looking at the way that performed with its accolades, the only time it wasn't nominated was for season 2, which is like one of the best TV seasons of drama like ever. So that would be quite heartbreaking, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't get nominated for season 3. Not that we've seen it yet.
To your point about Regé-Jean Page, I think not only do I think he has a very good shot at getting in this category, I think he could very well be a contender for guest actor in a comedy series for his stint hosting Saturday Night Live a couple of weeks ago, which was very well received, and he did a very good job. He wasn't just someone who was there, he was actually like immersing himself in it. So, it's one of those things where, every little bit helps.
Yeah, he was really good in Saturday Night Live. So that's certainly a possibility.
We've got The Alienist coming over from the limited field. That one surprised with the nominations and wins that it got a few years ago. And we also have a couple dramas that could theoretically move over to limited. We have We Are Who We Are, which is not coming back. And then we have Lovecraft Country, which they haven't actually renewed for a second season, even though it's getting all these nominations and seems to have a fan base. I guess it's actually not that large. So that could shuffle over too. Tony, do you have any thoughts?
It was interesting when Perry Mason was renewed for a second season. I don't know why it surprised me, because it just seemed like such an event. As somebody who grew up watching reruns of the original Raymond Burr series with my grandfather, and forgetting that the original series was actually quite popular with Emmy voters. Raymond Burr won twice. Barbara Hale won supporting actress once. And so, Matthew Rhys, very popular with Emmy voters, and he certainly has, all of those things that when we used to look at Emmy submissions in a really kind of, detailed and thorough way, he has so many of those qualities in his performance. So, I think that, the best actor category, as well as, Josh O'Connor, who's been on a roll lately, and the return of Billy Porter and Sterling K. Brown and all the people we've mentioned so far, that could really turn out to be, I think, one of the more competitive categories. I don't think there's really a slam dunk yet in that category.
That's a really good point, Tony. Even if you don't like Perry Mason, the new version of it, I think it's pretty much undeniable objectively that Matthew Rhys is really, really good in that show and really compelling. And I would say he's almost certainly going to be nominated. And he's probably Josh O'Connor's main competition in that category at this stage. The other thing I was going to mention that I just remembered was something that Chris Beecham, the legendary Chris Beecham, mentioned to all of us on one of our chats, internal chats, and that was Giancarlo Esposito, who is nominated all the time by the Emmys. They love him. He was nominated twice last year for The Mandalorian and for Better Call Saul. He's now in supporting, and I would probably say the safe money should be that you put him at number 1 for now, because he's probably going to get in there. And this could be a really, really good way of finally giving him an Emmy. He lost years ago for that first time when he was playing Gus in Breaking Bad. I remember that so clearly because I thought he was a shoo-in, and he lost, probably very close race with his co-star Aaron Paul. This could be the chance to finally make it up to Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah. Also in this category, we have John Lithgow for Perry Mason. Perry Mason is a show that has a lot of Emmy favorites on it. They also have Tatiana Maslany, and it's directed by Tim Van Patten.
Yeah, look for Perry Mason to do really well, especially with a lot of the below the line. There's going to be a lot of below the line support for that show with costume, cinematography, production design. It's a very beautifully made show. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous to look at. So that could really propel it up higher just in terms of drama series than we might be thinking.
Can I ask a question of all of you?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to do it anyhow. So we were talking in the comedy chat about how we were talking in the comedy chat about how the flight attendant is technically, according to the rules, it would be automatically placed in drama. They're appealing to be placed in comedy, but let's assume that the Television Academy rejects that appeal, and they have to compete, and the show has to compete in drama. Can it get into drama series and lead actress for Kaylee Cuoco?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could it get in? Yes.
Will it?
Where would you place the show and Kaylee Cuoco in your rankings if it were in drama?
High, but not quite as high as in comedy.
I don't know. I'm skeptical. I don't think it would make it in drama. I think Kaylee Cuoco would squeak in.
I feel like it kind of undermines Kaylee Cuoco's performance that they're calling it a comedy, as if, we can't take her seriously as a dramatic actress.
But it is funny. I find it it's zany.
Oh, it's insanely funny.
Yeah, it's zany and crazy and really extra. And that's what I like about it. And I just feel it belongs in comedy. Kind of like what Orange is the New Black was, back in the day when that used to swap and change. Even Boston Legal, that kind of show. Like, why the hell was that in drama? So I think these dramedies, they're interesting, aren't they? Because you can make an argument for either side. This is a good example of that. And I think Flight Attendant belongs in comedy, not just because it's an easier ride for it, but I think that's where it belongs. Its tone is comedic to me.
Yeah, to me, I think there's a parallel that you can draw between something like The Flight Attendant and something, say, like Desperate Housewives. There's a tone to it. There's a tone. There's a wackiness to it that it might not be ha-ha funny, even though both shows are kind of centered around like a murder mystery in their opening seasons. But yeah, it belongs in comedy.
I think it's kind of similar to Killing Eve.
That's a good point. Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching Gold Derby.